Welcome to Tenuous Collections, Part 2. In this Tenuous connection, I will be comparing two photographs. The first photograph is a still photograph of a film that Leonardo Henrichsen recorded. Remarkably, he ended up recording his own death. The second photograph is of Stafford Cripps, chancellor of the exchequer, between 1947 and 1950 in the UK. Let's begin with Leonardo Henrichsen. A few months before the military coup, Leonardo Henrichsen filmed his own death. Henrichsen was an Argentine-Swedish photojournalist. This prefigured the human rights abuses in Chile. Henrichsen had already covered 14 coups in Latin America, as they are obviously legion within the continent. On June 29, 1973, a little over 2 months before the military coup, Henrichsen was having breakfast across La Moneda, the seat of the Chilean presidency. The sound of gunfire erupted outside, and Henrichsen rushed to film it, as he happened to have his camera equipment with him. Once he began filming, a Chilean army regiment stormed La Moneda. Upon noticing his camera, Henrichsen was shot by the ranking officer. He died aged 33. Chile was renowned for respecting democracy and the rule of law. It was a rare exception within the continent. Within a few months it witnessed a bloody coup and 17 years of dictatorship. Even so, it illustrates how Latin American politics, unlike the example of Britain which I will present soon, goes to an extreme. Allende's socialist government introduced the following measures: nationalization of major industries including copper, and fully nationalization of the US mining operations, nationalization of the healthcare system, nationalization of the banks, and land reform. It expropriated land from wealthy landowners and gave it to farmers. Allende, this was already happening prior to Allende. Allende accelerated this process. 59% of land was redistributed. Whilst there was a short period of growth, the Allende government unraveled quickly. Chile underwent hyperinflation and food shortages. Once Pinochet came to power, he reversed Allende's reforms by privatizing large sections of the economy, including pensions, returned land to owners, made trade unions illegal, stabilized raging hyperinflation, and lowered tariffs. This extreme economic liberalism was coupled with an extreme social authoritarianism, as it enforced curfews and tortured and exiled dissidents, and this included moderate Democrats as well as socialists. Unemployment and poverty were extremely high during this period. By the end of the dictatorship, 48% of Chileans lived in poverty. However, Chile also experienced a recession in 1982, which meant that they had to renationalize the banks, leading some commentators to claim that the monetarist experiment had already failed. This is an extreme example. The killing of Henrichsen was extreme, but the reaction to socialist populism, a bloody coup with human rights abuses, was also extreme. This is why I like to contrast the picture of Henrichsen with the picture of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Stafford Cripps, drinking a cup of tea. The socialist experiment in Chile leads to people killing each other, whereas in the UK, people drink a cup of tea. It must be said that the UK post-war consensus was often called social democratic and Keynesian, and it was a lot softer than Allende. Nonetheless, these were the principles of the post-war consensus. It included a mixed economy, nationalization of major industries such as steel and coal, as well as all utilities. 28% of the economy was nationalized. However, there was still plenty of space for entrepreneurship. Industrial harmony. Government and businesses often negotiated with trade unions so as to negotiate better wages and working conditions. Unions were often given the power to strike. A universal welfare state. Welfare was expanded, which included unemployment insurance, pensions, and many other benefits. Legal aid was introduced. This is state aid for people who could not afford a lawyer. Crucially, the National Health Service was created. Hospitals were nationalized, and healthcare was made free at the point of use. Also, a commitment to full employment. Government intervened in the economy in varying ways so as to ensure full employment for everyone. A nuclear deterrent was created, and the UK joined NATO. It adopted a strong anti-communist position and retained its alliance with the United States. It also guaranteed independence to India, and some people say that the end of empire starts at this moment in time. Governments in the UK generally adhered to these principles up to the 1970s. However, by the 1970s, state industries were tottering and on their knees, as well as private British manufacturing, which often relied on the government to bail it out. Trade unions were often blamed for driving inflation up and for causing industrial unrest by striking. Demand management and policies which aimed at delivering full employment were seen as tampering with the free market too much. Hence, Thatcher reversed all of these things. She privatised state companies, reformed the trade unions, albeit Labour and Conservative governments have tried to do this, although with not as extremely as she did. And she no longer thought that government should deliver full employment, as the monetarist policies led to 3.5 million unemployed. However, she did not privatise the NHS, and she kept the welfare state, and welfare bills went up due to rising unemployment. So a consensus emerged, and the Conservatives, by and large, tried to make these policies work alongside Labour. A lot of them were eventually reversed by democratic consent. Thatcher was elected each time with a landslide, not with a bloody coup, and not with human rights abuses. So there you have it. In Latin America, they go to political extreme and people shoot each other. In the UK, they go to political extreme and people drink a cup of tea.